the future right there.
Oh, thank you.
So, I think as a way of breaking the ice, actually, David, Leah's got a really cool story about how she nearly met you a few years ago before we get started.
I don't know about nearly met you, but this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm doing this. You make me do this, Gavin. But about 6 years ago, when I was doing my training and become a PGA professional, I just won an award and was feeling pretty good about myself and heard that you were in the Surrey area. I just bought your book, The A-Swing, so I thought I'd chance my luck and email you, David. I never had a reply.
Oh, you didn't?
Yes, well, stop laughing.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That obviously went to the wrong person, because normally I'm very.
My husband thinks it's hilarious. We were just starting to go out at this point, and he couldn't quite believe I did that. But just chancing my, I was chancing my luck. Well,
you know what? I'll send you a belated signature or whatever you need. So I apologize about that. We must have. I'm going to blame my staff, not me, for that. Because but thank you for bringing it to my attention. There's probably about 100,000 other people like you out there who think, what an idiot, he never doesn't bother to reply to us.
To be fair, Leah, you probably spelt his name wrong. I know.
I probably did. I'm dyslexic, so it was probably awful spelling errors. But
oh, geez, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to burst your bubble there. And
there you go.
It wasn't intentional, I assure you.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. 6 years later, here I am. So there you go.
Worth waiting for, Leah.
Well done. Well, and well done on winning this award. I mean, you're the pioneer now. I mean, you know, everybody else is going to be following you, because this is the first award of its type. So that's really really good. And so we're really excited about this. I know, you know, listen, Gavin has just done a brilliant job in this area, and you know, obviously he's very passionate about it. And it's nice to have people such as yourself who have that same train of thought, because I mean, it's sorely needed. I mean, if this game is going to grow, you know, you've got to get these youngsters really plant the seed at an early age. So that's what we're doing. So I know you enjoy it, and it's. I mean, I'm sure at times they give you a bit of a hard time, but yeah, overall, I mean, I mean, you never know. Out of this lot, who knows? Future, you know, champions, right? I mean, so that could happen, but at the very least, I mean, I think, you know, in this day and age, about getting people to play golf. I mean, what's the biggest comment you hear from people you give lessons to, say a middle-aged person who, you know, really falls in love with the game, is that I wish I'd started younger. I mean, you hear that time and time and time again. And so now's an opportunity, because once they learn it, once it's in the blood, and even if they learn all the rudiments of the game, you know, even if they pack it in for a while, they'll probably come back to it. And it's a bit like skiing or riding a bike to a certain extent. If you learn it when you're young, I mean, you've got it. So no, it's kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
David, just on my part,
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, thank you for everybody for making time. This is the first in hopefully a long series of our teachings titled Under the Hat, and definitely David's iconic for his hat, and thought it's aptly titled. And David's going to give us a bit of an insight in today to some of the work that he's currently doing with Patrick Reed. It's a hot topic in all of the conversations that I deal with all of the trainees and instructors around the world. They're always wanting to know what's going on at headquarters. So on behalf of us as a team, David, thank you for giving up your time and kicking us off. It's normally this time of year, we're in Orlando around the summit, and obviously helping educate the coaches. And this is our commitment to everybody that's associated with us, to give back on a weekly basis. We're going to try and have a different topic each week. We've got Dr. Bob next week, who's going to help out with, you know, helping you as a coach, help your students unlock and change their mind. And as Dr. Bob always says, change your mind, change your game. But obviously today's a little bit of a different focus.
Never change your hairstyle.
No.
That's Dr. Bob's philosophy.
I coiffed it very nicely for you today, David. So I really.
Oh, there we go. There we go, Bob. I'm glad I didn't say anything nasty. Anyway, that was good.
Nice to have the option of.
Yeah. Didn't see you sitting in the corner over there.
Yeah. So from our side, this hopefully for you guys, it's going to be enjoyable. We wanted to do it on Zoom, so it's you guys can all partake. You can kind of mix in, and you can ask some questions along the way. Obviously, when we start to share the screen and we start presenting, if you could put yourself on mute, that'd be great. And if you have a question, just there's a button where you can raise your hand, so you can do that. Gavin is going to co-host the sessions with me. For those of you that don't know, GAVIN-GRENVILLE WOOD is head of junior education. As David said, does a fantastic job with all of our Leadbetter Kids programs, and we work closely together on the education side of things. So normally what we traditionally do at the summit is we recognize instructors that have outstanding commitment and have achieved a lot in the game, but also not only their commitment, their passion, their dedication, but also represent us as an academy network and what David's always stood for. And David, I believe we have 2 awards this year, and the cat is slightly out of the bag, but we have a brand new award for a Leadbetter Kids Instructor of the Year. And I'd love to hand it to you, David, to announce that.
Yes, I'm very happy to announce that Leah is our first winner of this award, and congratulations to her. It's I'm glad that Gavin actually was instrumental in sort of thinking about this award, because it really it's going to be a big part of our program. Well, it is a big part of our program now, but it's going to be even a bigger part going forward. So yeah, congratulations to Leah. It's nice to see somebody who's excited and passionate. You can see that in her voice and her demeanor. And I say we're so happy to have you on board there, Leah, and we look forward to many years of you sort of fulfilling not only your dreams, but the young people that you work with as well, their dreams as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And don't make me cry, Gavin. You're embarrassing me today.
You go, Leah. I'm so proud of you.
This is hubby, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Kept it quiet from you for about a week.
That's amazing.
No, I'm really proud of you, Leah. You've had such a positive impact in so many young people's lives. So well done.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you, everybody. That's amazing.
Congratulations.
Didn't expect that. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, obviously massive thanks to Gavin. Like, it's nuts. We only met each other, May last year? Just by chance, really, invited into a Zoom session. And well, he's helped me every step of the way, change everything. And I'm just so, I'm so pleased. I'm so surprised. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Oh my goodness, I can't believe my husband kept this for a secret for so long. He's rubbish at keeping secrets.
Oh, pretty good for that one.
Well, he kept the secret slightly longer than David did, I might add, but...
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Put the mouth.
No,
there we go.
Gavin finally got you a bottle of bubbly as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
So,
I know.
congratulations. It's well deserved, and I think it's actually representative of the work that everybody's doing, certainly on the kids front. What's really cool about this session is that we've got so many people online here whose faces we can see, that we've all interacted with. It's been a tough 12 months that everybody's experienced, but you know, I think Leah, you bring joy to everybody's faces. You know, with Barney last week and with Molly yesterday, you know, you're getting people to get out of their comfort zone. You get them to reach into areas that they might not be particularly comfortable with, but the quality of what you're putting out there and the way that you're inspiring young people, parents, families to be engaged with the sport is phenomenal. And you've got such a bright future, and we're just really happy that you're part of the family.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Try not to cry.
If we managed to keep you quiet for 5 minutes, I think we all have achieved our job.
I know. Oh no, seriously, that's such an amazing surprise. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. How funny. There we go. Kind of started the journey 6 years ago, really, but then David never got back to me. So,
Leah, at
Well,
least
better late than never, though, right? No, you see, the thing is, if I had got Leah, if I had got back to you, you might have decided, no, I'm not going to be doing it with this fella.
Not at all. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like everyone should have a glass, not just me.
That's right, we should do, yeah, that's right.
Congratulations, Leah.
It's probably appropriate time. It's appropriate, especially since Donald Trump recommended, but maybe I could sip a bit of hand sanitizer here. Here we go, cheers.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. And David, our kind of other award, our traditional Leadbetter Instructor of the Year award from all of our Academy network, I think goes to somebody that's been an outstanding instructor for us for a number of years. It'd be great if you wanted to introduce that. I know, unfortunately, he can't be on the call today, but he gave me a message as well to give back once you've announced it.
Right. Well, this person who has been with us for a number of years now. What was the exact number? Do you know, Stuart?
Well, he's been in Korea for 15 years, and I believe he was with us for about 7 years before that. So probably close to 20,
he
21.
Started off as a very good player from Ireland. He took lessons from one of our top instructors, Andrew Nicholson, who's won this award before. And he settled in Korea and is doing a marvelous job for us over there. Not only in the teaching, from the teaching perspective, I mean, he's worked with many of the top Korean players, men and women, and his ability to get the message across to these young players over there has been extraordinary. And not only that, but also from an educational standpoint, he's been a big part of our education forum, if you will. And I'm very happy to announce, and it's sort of very overdue, I would say, in many respects. But we always have some great candidates through the years, and it's certainly, I think, it's more than well deserved. So I'd like to congratulate Robin Symes on being our Teacher of the Year. And sorry he can't be with us today. I mean, obviously time zones and all sorts of things. But Robin, as I say, a great member of the team. He's a really good guy, and he, as I say, he will wear the hat very, very well.
Yeah, no, I spoke with Robin late yesterday evening, my time. He's very humbled. He was taken aback by the award, and you know, he said thank you to everybody that recognizes his work and his achievements. And I think also he's been very instrumental in developing the relationship that we have with Golfzon in Korea as well. He's kind of our eyes and ears on the ground, if you like, working together and helping develop the GDR systems as well. So he was over the moon, to say the least, and is extremely proud. So that's congratulations to Robin. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So we have two fine winners this year. So I know that the tradition continues.
Perfect. David, I know everybody will be chomping at the bit to hear a little bit about your journey with Patrick Reed. I know you were quite happy to talk a little bit about your work with Patrick. I've got some of the video footage on V1 that I can share whenever you want me to, and share my screen.
I'll give a little background first of all. You know, I mean, look, I have obviously through my career worked with a lot of different types of personalities and different people, and Patrick's a different personality. I think he comes with a lot of bad press, as I think everybody seems to have these days. I mean, but he had a very tough upbringing, very abusive family, and he essentially, when he was 19, he left home and has never spoken to his parents since. So I think that had a great you know, that really formed his character to some extent, and a very hard-nosed, I wouldn't say arrogant, but very super confident and trying to prove people wrong that, hey, he wasn't going to make it. I mean, the last word out of his father's mouth, you'd be nothing but a shitty mini tour player. And so he's proved them wrong. But so he's a very interesting individual. He's a little old school in as much of the way he's, I mean, he's technical to a point, but he's one of those players that who, if you watch him play, he's a worker of the ball. I mean, you know, you're seeing a lot of these young guys. Right, he just turned 30, so he's not the youngest out there, but he certainly he is pretty much old school, and his wife is she's a pistol. She's sort of the 3/4 of the relationship, I would say. She's amazing. I mean, how confident she is when Patrick, who's good friends with Tiger, they were playing a practice round, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And she is actually very knowledgeable about equipment. Patrick has a golf club company in Japan that he's a part owner of, and produce a beautiful looking iron, and they bring out some drivers and so on. So it's sort of a niche market, obviously, but it's amazing how over the years the Japanese have really done a great job in producing good looking irons. And so she said to Tiger, looking through his bag while in the middle of Fairway, because she used to caddy for Patrick when they first got on tour. So it was probably maybe 6 or 7 years ago. She said, Tiger, that there's no ways that this shaft and this 3 would suit you. This, whatever it was, you know, it was too heavy, the kick point was wrong, or whatever it was, you know. And so Tiger sort of looked at him, and Patrick rolled his eyes. And anyway, sure enough, the next week, Tiger had a new shaft in his 3 wood. So that's the sort of person she is. She's very, you know, persistent. She's tough, but it's probably what he needs. So anyway, so she called me up, I don't know, a year and a bit ago. And so they said to me, would you mind having a look at Patrick? This was sort of during a tournament in Tampa, year before last. Would you mind, you know, it's possible you'd have a look at Patrick, see what you think. So I said, sure. So I did some work with him that week, and did some work a couple of weeks afterwards. And you know, we left it like that. He had a coach who'd been working with for 5 or 6, maybe 7 years. And so obviously that had some success. But the interesting thing, looking at his statistics, as good as the short game as he had, I mean, and I think you probably have to say that he's in the top 3, I would say, from, say, maybe 80 yards and in, shall we say, when you take all of the components, the pitching, the chipping, the bunker play, the putting. I mean, he's just phenomenal on and around the greens. And so his statistics in that area, scrambling, was pretty amazing. And so, you know, I always felt that, look, if you could take somebody like this and get their ball striking up to a point where it equates with their short game, how good could this person be? So that's a sort of a challenge to me, you know. So anyway, it's sort of time went on, and I saw him a couple of times here or there, and he still had his coach with him. And it was all, to me, it always seemed to me sort of, well, this is happening today, let's fix that. This is happening tomorrow, let's fix that. And so there was never really a plan behind the whole approach. And so I sort of, you know, I don't push it. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, I've never gone out to sort of seek clients or what have you, but I always thought, well, he'd be an interesting guy to work with, because you have to bear in mind that in all the years he's been on tour, he's never been in the top 100 in fairways hit or greens in regulation, not top 100, you know. So considering what he's done in the world of golf, you know, he's won obviously the Masters and on World Championship, he's won, what, 6 other tournaments or something. So it's pretty remarkable. So anyway, what happened? Probably September, I got another call from Justine, and she said, hey, listen, you know, I think Patrick would like to work with you full time. I really like what you did with him before, because I kept it pretty simple, just things like posture and keep it a little shorter. I mean, what are you going to do, you know, in the middle of a tournament? You know, you're not going to get into too much stuff. So I said, well, yeah, I'd really like to take that challenge on. And I said, well, so what about his other coach? He said, well, we've we're in the process of sort of letting him know that, you know, we want to go in a different direction. So I said, okay. So I said, why don't you do that first, and then we'll sort of get together, because I don't want to, you know, who knows? Because the first go round, I was there, his coach was there, and it was almost like, you know, he was sort of taking some of these things that I was working on, and I could see when I saw Patrick a few months later, they were working on some of the same things. But, you know, it was a bit of a mess, bit of a mix. And so, you know, if you're going to do something like that, you've really got to have a plan. So then I said, okay, well, let's see. And he, you know, he came down to Champions Gate, and I've had Sean Hogan help me a lot, because with my foot surgery, I haven't been able to travel that much. And so Sean's taken a lot of the load. He's out this week with him, actually, in San Diego at Torrey Pines. And so he's done an awful lot of work with him too. He went to Dubai with him and so on. So, you know, anything over 3 hours, Sean can do it. Anything under 3 hours, I'll do it. So that's where we're figuring it out right now. But no, so essentially, when we looked at Patrick to start with there, I mean, you know, he had some posture issues and so on. And I said, look, you really got to look at this in a way that you've got to build this. I mean, look, you're keeping playing. I couldn't have done another Nick Faldo and say, okay, well, let's take a couple of years and see if we can get this, you know, get this down. I mean, look, you could never do that. I mean, not that maybe in this day and age with a little technology, even Nick's and my work might have been hastened somewhat. But the things I said, look, you're playing. It's going to be a work in progress. We're going to do little things and work on little things, because I mean, he's an unbelievably hard worker, and I just love his attitude. I mean, he's got no fear whatsoever. I mean, he loves it. You can see at the Ryder Cup how he performs. He just loves the limelight. He loves being under a pressure situation. And you know, he's one of those guys that say, listen, you can't do this. And, you know, say, okay, watch me. You know, that's the sort of individual he is. So he's very, very positive, very confident in his own ability. And really, you know, the money doesn't really interest him. It's really interesting that he said, yeah, money's nice, fine. He said, I just after trophies. That's all I want to do. I want to win. I want to win. And his wife's very much of the same ilk, sometimes to a point where it's like, you know, she can't quite understand. I mean, you know, she's not really a golfer per se. She was a very good athlete in college and what have you, but she can't understand why he doesn't win every week. And, you know, if she makes a double bogey, then she sort of gets on him, you know. It's like, and so it's quite funny watching it from the outside, because it's sort of a layman's view. Well, why'd you miss that putt? Everybody else is knocking him in, you know, that sort of thing, you know. So anyway, so I looked at it and I said, you know, listen, you need to sort of look at this whole program. And when I say look at the whole program, I mean, not only the swing itself, but we're sort of advising him. We've got some people advising him on diet. I mean, diet was non-existent, and, you know, drinking a Coke for breakfast and stuff to get him going and stuff. So we're working slowly in that area. Even from a fitness standpoint, I've had Jim Lair sort of chat with him a little bit about his goals and what have you. And it's interesting what Jim Lair said. He said, you know, he doesn't want to work too much with him, because he has that inner drive, because of his father almost, to prove him wrong, that drive to become the best, become number one. And if you get him sort of happy and satisfied with where he's at in life, and sort of come to terms with what happened when he was younger, he might lose that fire. And that's the thing you never want to squash, is that fire within somebody to get to that point. So you know, so we're looking at sort of the whole holistic approach, as I've always spoken about over the years. You know, I mean, golf is, when you're working with players, no matter what level player, it is the holistic approach, really. I mean, I know technique is a big part of it, obviously, that we work on, but it is very much looking at all the different portions of the pie. So you're going to give me 1 second, because I think Kelly doesn't realize I'm on this call. So hang on a second. Kelly, I'm on this phone call. So Such a good wife. Yeah, right. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Should have had a commercial break there, but we can't. You see, that's the problem with these damn Zoom calls. You know, if you're on just on a phone call, you just put it on mute for a minute and yell at the missus. Anyway, okay. Where was I? So anyway, you know, when we looked at it, and it was interesting, and I said to him, "Why do you think you have such a good short game?" So I said, technically wise. I know mentally wise. I mean, you see the shot, you feel it. He's one of those guys, a bit like Sevi. I always remember asking Sevi Ballesteros that. So how do you know? You know, this was the day. I mean, this was almost going back when you look at Dave Peltz, you know, and Tom Kite, you know, where they worked on a 60-degree wedge, and you know, working the swing to sort of 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10:30, and all the rest of it there to hit it a certain distance, you know. And, you know, I said, well, how do you hit your distances? I just see it and I hit it. It's like, you know, he didn't figure out how far he took it back, or, you know, how much acceleration or deceleration he had, or whatever. I mean, it was just a matter of, hey, hit thousands and thousands of shots and you develop the feel for it. That's pretty much like Patrick too. So he's very much a field player, even though he likes to know the technique. So somewhat, you know, sort of my type of player really, because that's how Faldo was. I mean, very much so. And even Nick Price, you know, they like the technique, they want to know it, but then they're able to sort of utilize that technique in a way that they could just feel things and not get too technical. So I said, so technically, why do you think? You know, he couldn't answer me. I said, well, the reason being essentially is because you are an open face player. And then, so, I mean, if we see, I don't know if we've got a couple of the early ones up there, Stuart, you've got a video up there, maybe you could show, but this, I think this is early doors right here. An opening of the face here. Okay, going back, yeah, there we go. So opening. Very much toe up, sort of. And if you look at the top of the backswing, we see here, yeah, you can see there's a sort of a lift and an opening, and the shaft, a lot of times, even actually, especially with the driver and stuff, the head would actually sit. Okay, think of north, south, east, west, right? You see, especially as he changes direction, you can see how the club face sort of gets behind his hand. So you can just hold it right there. You'll see. All right, so what I'm saying is you can see how the club face is actually west of the shaft. Okay, do you see that there? All right, so north being up top, south being down below, obviously, then east. Now you can see, so I mean, that club face, I mean, really, he changed. I mean, it was open going back and then even more open coming down. So you add a little cup in the wrist there, and it was a case really that, you know, he's a natural drawer of the ball. Okay, but he has, you know, as he likes to do, he has magic hands. And so he's able to sort of finagle it to a point where his tendency was to aim well right and sort of almost sort of pull draw it back online. And so as we come down, you'll see there's a lot of forearm rotation coming into the ball. You watch or just at the ball and beyond the ball. You see how cuppy that left wrist is. So the face is still pretty wide open here. And so as we keep going here, so in order to square off, what does he do? We'll see. You can see that right forearm, how it juts out, and the right hand even comes off the club. And the interesting thing, it was so open, sort of coming into the ball. If you look, just go a couple more frames there, Stuart, you'll see. Okay. There we go. So, I mean, it actually looks okay there. So he's actually sort of closed it to such an extent. But, you know, a lot of times when you see a player close it really aggressively like that, what would you see? You'd see the face almost pointing at the ground. So, you know, he found it very difficult, you know, that his coach was always trying to get him to move up to his left side instead of hanging back. Just let's have a look at the face on again. Okay, I know we're hitting an iron here. Just do the face on from the start there, if we could, Stuart. So let's see, yeah. All right. So as we just work at going back here, as I say, you know, I mean, look, he's got great ball sense. He was a really good athlete in college. I mean, not in college, in high school, I should say. He was a very good baseball player. He was a good ice hockey player, and so just took to golf. And so let's see, you can see how narrow it is. And you can see the right forearm does sort of have a funny look about it coming into the ball. Can you reverse that, Stuart, again?
Yeah, sure.
To sort of halfway down. Let's see. There we go. You can see it looks pretty narrow. Look at that right forearm where it is. And you can see there's it's sort of you can see cuppy look there. Look at that left wrist there. There's a lot of angle at the back of the wrist. Consequently, the face is pretty wide open. And then having to, you know, I mean, his numbers weren't terrible. I mean, that's the thing with, you know, when you get on a, you know, you get on track now and all of a sudden say the numbers don't look terrible because, you know, players are able to manipulate it through the ball, but we can see this, you know, there's a lot of sort of forearm action through the ball here. So I said to him, I said, well, the reason you've got such a great short game technically is because of the fact that, you know, you actually play with an open face, and we all know that, you know, that, hey, bunker play, little pitches, etc., etc. I mean, he uses the bounce brilliantly, and it's a very natural thing for him to do. So the challenge really was, okay, well, you know, keep some of that going with the short game, obviously, but not with the long game. And so it was quite interesting. I mean, really, you almost had to have. Well, the first thing we did really, well, I mean, we certainly worked on tidying his posture up and making it more dynamic. But the first thing we really did, let's see what we see here. Well, you can see that sort of, you can see the liftiness there, and you know, it's very sort of weak, and you can see look how the shaft is falling behind him here. So it's like he's, you know, I mean, the problem was, look, he could hit it right or he could pull hook it there. I mean, there's a lot of timing through the ball there, and obviously he's got great hands. But you know, even people with great hands, when they're swinging it sort of, you know, 100, as Patrick does, about 115, 118 miles an hour, there's a lot that can go wrong on those couple of feet before and after impact there. So there's a lot of forearm flip there. And as I say, it's interesting at the club face, you look at that and say, oh, it looks pretty good. It does. But it's like, it's sort of the ability that he's had to sort of, you know, not over close it, shall we say, coming into the ball or coming in impact, I should say. So the first thing we did was actually, you know, we tidied up his posture, we spoke about alignment, but, you know, alignment, a lot of it is the fact that he felt he could actually, there we go, the boot on. And so the first thing we actually did before, just hang on a second here, if you will, Stuart. The first thing we did was actually change his grip. Okay, so, and you know, it was interesting. I mean, he adapted to it really well. We actually, you know, we got his right hand really on top there. So this is just, you know, we've got various drills. I'm not sure which ones are coming up, but we got his right hand much more on top, because I actually felt that would actually get the face closing more, because we're actually working on getting the face closing more, almost right off the ball. And so, you know, instead of the rolling the club open, that's one of the reasons I had that club sort of, you can probably just see his right hand there. It's very, very much the V's looking out just maybe at his right eye on his right hand. So yeah, there, almost at his chin really, whereas before it was more towards his right ear. So that was quite a change. And we actually left his left hand. We didn't touch that. But I mean, he actually adapted that really well with the grip. I mean, we did a couple. The first two things we really did was, say, apart from the posture, which was sort of left over from the time before, so he adapted to that pretty easily. But was really getting used to the grip and then getting this club face working. And you'll actually see now, when you watch him now, he actually almost makes a little rehearsal, something similar to Justin Thomas, where it's like, you know, Justin Thomas actually gets the thing open, okay, gets the thing open going back, and you can see that's what he does now. But Patrick actually works on almost getting the club face closed and that right wrist in a very strong position, because we're trying, not that, you know, listen, the bowed left wrist is obviously a feature these days with a lot of these young players, but we got it to a point where we want that left wrist pretty flat, and then if anything, bowing coming down. So instead of that cuppy action, and even when he feels like it's bowed, it's pretty neutral, and it sort of got to a point where he felt really short, really tight, and you can see that's, I mean, it's a strong looking position, that. And you know, we've done also the major things we've done even up to this point really are to get his arm plane down, almost, you know, in his case it's the perfect match where his left arm plane and his shoulder plane match one another at the top of the backswing. instead of that big lifty look that he had, especially, I mean, with the driver, I mean, the club would get 9 inches below parallel at times. And then it would, from that length, and then you add in the cuppiness and the open face look. I mean, no wonder you had to use a lot of forearm release to get the club in position. So that was just a little drill with me holding there, putting pressure on it so his right hand has to work. You can so, and yeah, we spoke about the club getting a little bit steeper. You can see the club face now is well east of the shaft there. You can see at this point, and so. And his feeling is coming down almost like that right hand is actually pushing. So it's so we let's see as we come down. You see there's less fall off even here. I mean, this was early days, very early days, but the face is starting to get a little square, and even there the wrist is way too cuppy. That was something he struggled to do, but he was literally, I think, maybe just a few days after us, he was playing at Wentworth, right? So a pretty credible performance. I mean, he finished 3rd, so nice to know you got a player that can work on things, excited about things, and can still play to a high level. I mean, he had a good chance of winning that, and so Sean went with him, and they did a lot of indoor stuff, really working hard, split hand drills, trying to get that feeling of that right hand, because the right hand was the big key. The right hand being under, in Patrick's case, it would sort of get the right hand almost fanning and opening up, where this right hand more on top, it gave him the feeling that the palm was looking at the ground more, to get the club face in a more closed position. And, I would say it's only probably, it may be a degree sort of closed right now in many instances. If you look at various parts of the swing, whether it be the wrist at the top, the face at the top, the face in transition, the face coming into the ball. And so it was a case really that we put a lot more pressure on that right arm. And you can see it's almost like his turn finished, the rotation finished his backswing. And you can see, so this was, that's a 2-tone shaft, by the way, that he used initially to feel. When we used that 2-tone shaft before, some of you might have seen me use it. We've got one color one side, another color. Now you can see the yellow there. So he was able almost to see the yellow throughout, where in his case, well, put it this way, he would actually see, he would see the orange, sorry, let me get this right. See the oranges to the right. So he saw more orange going back and more orange coming down, where in his case, he'd see all yellow going back and then all yellow, and it was only the orange would only appear at the last moment as he flipped it. And so in order to do this, obviously the body had to work better as well. So we've been working very hard, because his deal when he got this, you might have seen his left foot spin out of the way a lot, which is not the end of the world, because he's got very inflexible ankles. We've had JJ look at him and gave us a biomechanical report. But the thing is, what we've been working on is obviously trying to get him to post up more into his left side. So that's actually what we're working on right now, and what Sean's working with him to actually hold that angle at the back of that right wrist longer before he releases it. And so that actually encourages his body to actually work almost to the front of the left foot. He's a natural drawer. So we're working, his pressure points were working from his right heel to his left toes. It starts down and then to his heel. The tendency with Patrick, as he gets that sort of flip happening, he hangs back, especially with the driver, hangs back, and then he gets spinny with the hip. So, there's everything. And then the interesting thing is he gets spinny with the hips. The chest and the shoulders almost slow down. They get bunchy coming into the ball. So we've sort of tried to change the portions or proportions a little more, where, yes, the hips don't open as early. He bumps more into his left side. So he's not spinning early. And then really, as he's in position with a stronger club face, to really get his chest and then ultimately his shoulders opening up. A lot of people don't realize too, this is probably a good teaching point, that your chest can be open, but your shoulders can be square. Okay, so that makes sense. If your right elbow is lower, it's really a lot of it's your forearms are almost square. Okay, in order to get your chest opening, I mean, you don't want the right shoulder shooting out or the chest opening up too early. So it's like, or the shoulders opening up too early, excuse me. So what happens is the chest spins, okay, rotates open, the shoulders stay a little squarer, and then they ultimately catch up. So there's a difference between chest and shoulders, to be quite honest with you. And so we do things. I mean, obviously we got the band on the legs here. This was to obviously stabilize the backswing to a certain extent. So he felt, he had to wind. It wasn't just a case of moving the left knee across. But it's interesting. He's liking the flight of his shots. He's actually, interesting thing is, you'd think, well, with the club face a little more closed, he'd actually hit it lower. He doesn't. He actually gets the ball up in the air now because there's less rollover with the face. So he's hitting his long irons quite a bit higher. And even, we've got him together with the stats guy, Mark Sweeney, who was obviously the developer of Aimpoint, and Mark's now into some really, really great statistics, which he's got together with him actually this week. And so we're getting involved in that. So we're trying to look at different areas there too, because I honestly believe if we can get this guy's ball striking up, because that's the thing that's held him back. It's not his short game. And, and as Mark said, look, you hit it inside more, you hit it inside 20 feet a lot more, which he hits a lot of 20 feet. He said, you get that number down. And he said, the way you putt, your numbers are going to improve dramatically. So, he's excited because, I've said to him, look, the only reason I'm doing this is because this is my stage of my career. But there's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of phone calls, a lot of, hey, come on, everything's going great. Come on, keep your chin up. He doesn't need a lot of that, but he needs a little bit, as everybody does. So I said to him, look here, the only reason I'm doing this is because I honestly believe that you have the opportunity of becoming number one. Now, you might not be the most physically talented of all the group of players. You've got some great athletes. You've got Dustin, you've got Rory, you've got Koepka, you've got, I suppose, DeChambeau, you call a great athlete now. So you're talking in terms of, okay, he's a good athlete, fair enough. And so the fact of the matter is that he's, I wouldn't say behind the 8 ball there, but look, he's going to have to do it. Historically, great players have been what? They've been great iron players, right? If you look at it throughout history, yes, they've been. So if Patrick had hit more fairways, and as a consequence, and with a little bit more length, because I do think, he's going to be using more leverage. He can certainly build up some speed here, but not doing it, by having 9 protein shakes a day, And so, as Mr. DeChambeau is apt to do. But the fact is that if we can get his iron play really sharp, and you combine that with his short game and with his attitude, he's got it all. He's got all the components there that you need in order to get to where you want to get to. And I say, with that guy's desire and his mind, it's like, there's no such word as can't in his vocabulary, no such word. And so it's really quite refreshing. I'm actually really enjoying it. It's, I love working with all sorts of players, but he's a different type. And I think that, he sort of values my expertise, and, we've sort of double teamed him with Sean. And so, he's trusts Sean a lot. And, for some reason, his wife trusts me, and so it's in fact, so much so that they've actually, I've got associated with the club down in South Florida here, we're about an hour south of us in Sarasota, called Coral Creek, which is a very really sort of upmarket golf club. It's very not very well known, but it has its own private airport. And Patrick, they're buying a house down here, moving in there. So, he's going to still live in Houston, but he's going to wanting to spend a lot of time in Florida because he wants to be down near me or near us. So, he's fully committed. And, as I say, it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years how he does. Look, there's going to be some ups and downs, as there always are in these sort of relationships. And, it's a bit like football, isn't it? It doesn't take long for Frank Lampard, to get kicked out after what he did even last year, and what he's done at the club, and what he did even up to December, right, where they were leading the league. So, things can be fleeting, as we know, but you know, so far so good. And I just honestly think you know, as long as he stays injury free, and that's one of the things we're working on. That's why you know, impress upon him, sort of look, as you get a little older, not that he's old, but you know, fitness, you know, you don't have to go crazy, but you do need to do some stuff there, which is going to embellish what you're doing with your technique and help to keep injuries away. So it's sort of a, I say, very much of a holistic approach. It's not just, okay, well, get your grip right and hey, you'll be fine now, you know, I say, because it's there's a lot of work that goes involved. That's why it's, you know, it was, when I think back in the day, the amount of work that I did with Nick Faldo and then all the other players I had sort of trooping along, it's a full-time job. And, you know, that's not my full-time job now. And as much as I love doing it, and, you know, I'll spend, you know, I mean, I'm still, you know, working with Rafa, which is nice to see him finally have a decent tournament after the COVID break. Geez, there's a guy that really, it's amazing. Some players came out and played really well, and other players like himself, and I think a lot of it was the fact that he was away from his family for so long, but I mean, he just really did nothing, absolutely nothing, and playing really poorly. So it's good to see that Rafa's back. I mean, he's such a good player. And so, you know, and I'm doing a lot of work with Charles Schwartzel now. There's another player who really, I mean, he lost his confidence through injury and he's getting it back. I mean, if you see this guy in practice rounds and on the practice tee, it's just more of a mental thing now to get him to the, you know, get it from the range and what have you to the course. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really, really good tournament soon, because he's, I mean, he's really striking it well. People tell me, I mean, how well he's hitting it. And so, you know, it's always fun, you know, working with these great horses and, you know, seeing what you can do and impart the knowledge to them. And it's sort of, you know, it's not so much, it's not the money for sure. It's just it's the reward. And it's nice to be able to sort of help somebody to, you know, just as Leah is doing, you know, in a different way, just helping people achieve their goals and their dreams. And so, there we have it. There's the Patrick Reed story. And so we'll keep it going. It's like a Netflix series. Right?
Next episode next month. David, thank you. I think, you know, from all of us, I mean, really insightful and probably more than we were expecting to hear. And I think it just shows the fact that you really took time to get to know the individual is a true kind of part of the art of coaching, isn't it? It's understanding the player you're dealing with and giving the context there. It was massive. And
it's all about, you know, I mean, look, teaching, and for everybody out there, look, it's all about, in the end, is having the knowledge, but having the ability to transfer that knowledge from yourself to the student there in a way that it gets through to them, right? I mean, and say, you know, a lot of this is experience. That's why, look, hey, technology is wonderful, okay, but technology cannot get inside somebody's brain. Nobody's gonna, you know, a machine's not going to tell you, you know, TrackMan's not going to tell you, well, Patrick Reed had a very abusive childhood, and you know, he's got a great attitude for golf as a result of that. I mean, that's not going to tell you that, right? So, I mean, you can have all the artificial intelligence in the world, and I think that's the thing that probably, I mean, the thing I dislike the most about the technology, you lose the individuality of it. I mean, you know, there's so many people coming to us now with different programs, and hey, you got to get this app going now, you know, where you can send it off in 30 seconds, a fix and the cure. But, you know, I mean, it's the way golf is going. I mean, it's almost like, you know, we in the old days, we used to lambaste people who were saying, you know, it's too much quick fix. Okay, you got to get into it. I mean, it's more quick fix now than it ever was. I mean, it's like, because hey, they didn't like that tip, they go to one of the other 7 million pieces of advice on YouTube. You know, so it's a strange old world we live in. Everybody's looking for instant success, but ultimately, you can do stuff online, obviously, but it's a matter of, okay, still even there, it's you've got to sell a program to somebody that they're prepared to look, if it's a weight loss program or whatever, right? Can't take one pill and overnight you're fixed. It's like, okay, here we go. You just slow but sure, understand it. And you know, plus the fact, you know, most of the golfers we're working with aren't great athletes. Okay, so they're trying to play an athletic sport, you know, a non-athlete's trying to play an athletic sport, and you know, the fact is somehow the gods come together at time they do hit a shot that, whoa, you know, and they think that, okay, well, I can do that all the time. But so it's you know, it's fascinating, and it's really, you know, it's up to us as teachers and coaches to coach people how to learn. That's the big thing. So so I'll sort of end it with that.
Yeah. No, perfect. Gavin, I think there was a couple of questions came in, but if anybody has a question, we've probably got a few minutes left, David, if you're good for time, just to maybe field a couple of questions before we wrap things up. And
yeah,
and
I've got a question here from Steve. Howdy, Steve, in Canada. Did any limitations come up in terms of a screen when you first started working together?
Yes, he had very little exterior rotation with his forearm. So in other words, the backward motion, very little. Had very, very inflexible ankles, tight calves and hamstrings. So there was some issues there, and so that's one of the things they're sort of working towards. But nothing crazy, you know. It was, you know, I mean, everybody has certain limitations. I mean, there's no perfect, you know, anatomical body out there, should we say, that, you know, that you can say, okay, that's perfect. I mean, but no, I would say overall, I mean, he, as I said, because I think this is why, you know, it's encouraging for younger people, kids to play other sports too, because I think that, you know, that hand-eye coordination, the ambidextrous nature of other sports and so on can really aid a golfer. So it's like, you know, you can get too one-dimensional with golf, as we know. So you know, he, no, as I say, it was certain limitations which he could get better with through, you know, maybe a stretching program, and he actually uses the Theragun, you know, this program that we're on right now. He uses that a lot. So that's his sort of morning warm up, shall we say, when he gets to the practice tee, sort of pummels himself with that thing to sort of get blood flowing and get loosened up. But which is a really great product, by the way. I'm actually speaking to the owner this afternoon. But it's yeah, I mean, no, as I say, I mean, is he the best athlete I've ever worked with? No, but he's I mean, he's adequate, and he'll get better, and he wants to get better. So that's the thing. I mean, he can improve his flexibility and sort of the hamstring, calf area. He can get that better. So there's a match between the front of his leg, his quad, and his back. So yeah, there's things like that you look at, and I mean, it's all geared towards his golf, really. I mean, it's like, as he said, you know, he said, I don't want to be in the gym. I said, you know, he said, I hate the gym. And he said, I'm not going to go in there and do a bunch of curls. So I'm already married with kids. Who am I trying to impress? that was his answer, you know. So that was quite fun. So, and as John Daly used to say, when I asked John Daly one time, listen, John, you ever work out? He says, no, I don't work out, because my theory is that you can pull a muscle, but you can't pull fat. So there you have it there.
Genius. Leah, you had a great question on that point.
Yes, I did, partly for my husband's curiosity as well. So obviously now with Bryson DeChambeau, it's all about speed, distance. I just wanted to know what your feel and take is on speed versus accuracy, and which one would be more important or you would implement first in a lesson. So whether it's for beginner, kid, elite player, what do you think, and how would you go about it?
Well, you know, look, some of it is God-given, right? I mean, look, Bryson DeChambeau he wasn't that short, okay? I mean, he hit it 310 or whatever it was on average before. Now he's like 323 or whatever it is, you know. So it's not like he came from, you know, 240 to 340, you know. So some of it is genetic. I mean, for sure. I mean, whether you can serve at 150 miles an hour in tennis, or whether you're like a Ben Stokes in cricket and can whack it out of the ground where, you know, another player couldn't, or you can bowl faster, or you can, I mean, there's certain stuff you just can't say, why does this player have it? And it's no question. Look, Bryson did create a big shock. It was interesting. I saw today on the news wires that, you know, a lot of players are thinking in terms. I think when it came out, everybody thought, oh, geez. Even heard Rory talking about it and what have you. You know, but I mean, how much further does Rory need to hit it seriously? I mean, so there are even Tony Finau, who I used to work with a number of years ago. I mean, who was always the long hitter. He said, you know what? He said, yeah, I could if I wanted to. He said, you know, but I'm going to put all my spare time into my short game. So to me, it's like, look, you work on mechanics, you work on, okay, if you've got a really good athlete in front of you there and they're able to create, I mean, we know that, hey, through making more of an efficient golf swing, they can create more power. Hitting out of the middle of the club face helps a lot, let's face it. And so I think that, you know, look, you can't just say, okay, let's make it a power game. I mean, there haven't been, although it's interesting that the new long drive guy over here, Kyle something or other, who actually played in a junior tournament that I actually put on a few years ago. Anyway, whatever. He's now trying to play because he's a good player. He's like a +2, but you know the likelihood of him making it on tour is like 0. To be honest, I mean, I'd be shocked. I mean, because there's been other players that have tried it. I mean, so this long drive stuff is, you know, they have the fella from the UK, Joe Miller. I mean, the guy, you know, he's like an animal. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, the way he works out and the way he trains. I mean, it's like to hit, you know, 1 shot out of 6 in a grid, right? I mean, it's like that's not golf. I mean, golf is you got to wear a lot of hats. You got to wear, you know, your power hat at once, you know, on the tee, then you've got to get around the green using a finesse hat. So it's different. Even to say something like baseball, everybody compares golf to baseball, and there's certain dynamics are somewhat similar. But, you know, in baseball, you're trying to smash everyone sort of for a home run, okay? And it's not like trying to just hit a little chip shot over the guy, the pitcher or whatever, first baseman's head. It's not, you know, it's not like that. It's like in golf. So it's a very different sort of situation. That's why so many power hitters have never been really had great short games. Now, you know, Bryson may change the mold, but I still think he's a bit of an outlier. And I think, yeah, players, they're getting stronger. But, you know, I mean, you could see somebody going it that hard. I mean, yeah, he's going to probably win a hell of a lot of money in a short space of time, but you can't see him having a career. You know, I mean, I think if Roger Federer, say, you know, his goal when he turned pro was to serve it 15 miles an hour harder, do you think you still hear of Roger Federer? No chance. No chance. So it's like, you know, I say we have to sort of weigh everything up, I think, there, Leah. So it's, I mean, yeah, power's nice. And I mean, you want kids to hit it hard, okay? I mean, you know, back in the day, Faldo, he was one of those guys that practiced at Weller Garden City, and he, you know, he was told, hey, we got to keep the balls between this tree line here. I don't want to lose any of my practice balls, please. So, you know, so he had this sort of boop, boop, you know, he had that rhythm which stayed with them for life. So, yeah, always get kids to try to hit it hard, you know, with balance. And, I mean, and then go find it afterwards. But still, I mean, power shouldn't be the major deal. I mean, you've got to, you know, you've got to be able to hit your iron the right distance. You've got to flight your irons. You've got to shape your shots and so on. So there's a lot more to it than just power, you know. And so unfortunately it's sort of the buzzword right now. And I mean, look, for the average golfer, I mean, how are you going to get a 50-year-old person who sits in an office next to a computer all day long to all of a sudden go out there, well, I've got 30 yards. Well, yeah, well, tee off the ladies' tees then, and then you might get it. But that's about all. That's about the only chance you have, you know. So anyway,
well,
facetious there. But, you know, it's an interesting concept.
We've got 67 more questions, David, but I'm going to choose one more and head over to Robbie Johnson in Canada.
Hey, Robbie.
Hey, David, Robbie here from Jasper. Yeah, my question was, watching Patrick Reed previously in tournaments, his lead foot, his heel tends to come off the ground. Now, after you discussed his lower half being pretty tight,
you're talking about through impact, right? Are you talking about on the? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that due to the tightness, you think, of him just trying to clear as much as he can?
No, but he said, look, I've tried to stop it, I can't stop it. And so there's a couple of things. Certainly his inflexible ankles don't help. In fact, it's almost as if he feels that when he does try to keep his foot flush to the ground and maybe even at worst just roll it over, he said it's very, very restricting. And so to me, there's no question about it. And speaking with JJ Rivet, he said, listen, that's a lot of it's due to ankle tightness, and so it's not easy to get your ankles more flexible. There's not a lot of, you can do a few stretches and maybe you might increase it 5 or 10%, but it's just one of those things you're born with, So one of the things that why it happens too early, I don't mind it happening, but it needs to happen late. The problem is if it happens early a lot of times in his case, because of the length of his swing and the fact that he's backing up on it in order to try to get the club to catch up, his hips clear pretty early, gets pretty spinny. And then you add the spin to the inflexibility, well, the foot just flips out. And so he delays the spinning of the foot when he's able, from what he's doing from his backswing right now, being able to move more into his left side. So he feels more pressure into the front of his left foot before it then transfers back to the heel, which is a perfect draw shape, so it's like a figure 8, but he's going from the right heel, pushing more forward, almost diagonally to the right of the target, with the weight and the pressure going down to the front of his left foot. And then once he's more posted, then he can clear it out of the way. So if the clearance from that position moves the foot, then it really doesn't matter. I mean, because he's already done the hard work getting to impact. So it's like if the foot spins after impact, who cares? The ball's gone anyway, So we can look at certain things in a swing. You can say, I don't like that. I mean, theoretically, yes. I mean, you don't like, oh, look at that foot spinning. You need to stop that. Well, okay, well, you don't need to stop it if it's causing a problem, right? If it's an idiosyncrasy, which to some extent it is, it's not going to be the end of the world. So, and as I say, it's much more, he does it with a 3-wood. I mean, I'm trying to think maybe a 3 or 4 iron, but, sort of middle iron, short irons is not really a problem,
Perfect.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Robbie. We've got one more question from Renee Lee in Hawaii. Aloha, Renee. Are you alive?
Probably on a surfboard over there or something.
Hi, everybody. We're live over here. Hey, David.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? This is awesome.
Good. I'm glad you're on, man. Nice to see Hawaii part of the academy crew now. We missed you.
Yes, we missed being part of the lead crew, but we're back stronger than ever, even through COVID.
Yeah. How's your new facility going? Going okay?
Yes, Eddie's doing a great job getting everything fine-tuned and detailed.
I have to tell this story, and so I hope I'm not throwing anybody down to the bus. So Eddie sent me a note the other day saying, "Hey, David, everything's going fine." He said, "We have this instructor who we took over, who's physically capable of it, actually sits down giving lessons, So I know, Tommy Armour used to do that. He used to have an umbrella and a gin and tonic there, and I think somebody with a palm leaf probably, fanning him. But I said, really, it's really not the image, to be quite honest with you, sitting down giving a lesson, because it's, it's like, I mean, look, if you're seeing somebody all day, you might sit on the edge of a cart for a couple of minutes, and so. But so I said to him, well, I think the solution is, if you tell him he wants to sit down all day, go and find an office job. That's probably the best way best thing.
You know that
to do.
circulating the Aloha section right now, David, that response.
Oh, it is?
We love
You like that reply?
I loved it.
Good. You have a question?
Yeah, so I do actually. My question was, you know, through your junior camps, what is your opinion on, as the child goes through, whether it's puberty or growth spurts, and how it affects their golf game?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because I think all our kids had the same. Not so much Hallie, because she'd almost had a growth spurt before she started, because she started late. But the other two, I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, they sort of develop a swing around a certain build and height and so on, and then all of a sudden they spring up about 9 inches. Whoa! I remember Andy, you know, who, he was a very, very straight hitter, you know, up until the age of about 14, 15. And then it was like, honestly, he must have grown 10 inches in a year. And I mean, he couldn't keep it on the planet. I mean, it was long, but he just everything was sort of, he was discombobulated. And so it takes a while. And so, I mean, my advice always is, look, just first of all, explain, you know, to parents, because they're always wondering, what happened to him? You were playing great last year, won all these tournaments and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you can't break an egg now. And it's like, well, you know, it's part of life, part of growth. And so it's as if, you know, you've got to keep working on sort of their solid fundamentals. And, you know, it's like sometimes we know we do make slight swing changes. I mean, you don't necessarily have the same swing. You might have the same outline as when you're very, very young, but it's not the same technique when you're 16 as it was when you were 10, say. So things do change. So you have to adapt, and a lot of it is getting a little stronger, especially in the lower body, because with kids, when they grow, their legs get longer for the most part, and that's where they, you know, at times lose a lot of the balance. So a lot of balance stuff, hitting balls. You know, one of my favorite drills is hitting balls out of a fairway bunker without burying their feet in, because they have to sort of stabilize. Hitting balls barefoot, you know, why? Hey, you can hit balls on the beach barefoot, but I mean, hitting balls barefoot and just really solidifying things, and that's the key. So they, you know, because normally what happens is, as they get taller and longer and looser, these kids, you know, the swings start to get a little out of control, right? So it's like, okay, well, how do we tighten things up? I mean, normally if you've got a 10-year-old, okay, they're sort of coming out of their shoes in order to hit it out there. And so it's interesting. I mean, I'm working with this kid from Thailand. I mean, his name's TK. I mean, you're going to hear a lot about this kid in the years to come. I mean, he's already, I mean, he finished 30th in a professional event, and he's just turned 14. And so TK's swing, you know, from when I first sort of started helping when he was about 8 or 9, is quite different to what it is now, you know. So it's sort of a, you know, an evolvement, if you will. And so my advice is, hey, just stick to basics, you know, do a lot of balance stuff, maybe hitting balls on some of those pads, those squashy pads that you can get, you know, for working out and balance and so on, barefoot, bunker, you know, fairway bunkers, and then make sure the equipment fits them, okay? Because, you know, a lot of times they'll be using equipment which is like, okay, I mean, literally, you know, they're going to need a new set of clubs, you know, twice a year for a year or two. So, or lengthwise, certainly, and even lie-wise, and even flex-wise. I mean, so it's a tricky period, and some kids adapt to it better than others. Some kids don't necessarily have that growth spurt, but a lot of them do. So I hope that helps.
Pretty sound advice there, I think. Stu, about to wrap things up, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I speak on behalf of everybody that's on the call. David, thank you so much for giving up your time today. I don't think we can. I don't think we can think of a better way to kick off this Under the Hat teaching series that we're going to have weekly. Gavin and I,
the cap, right?
Under the cap, that's it. No more big hat. But Gavin and I have spoke a lot. Obviously, we're going to bring some experts from around golf and outside of golf in as speakers. So hopefully you'll enjoy listening to people from all different areas. But we also want you guys to be involved. And the whole idea of a teaching is that as an academy network around the world, we're all in a really fortunate position that we have 35, 36 academies around the world, 14, 15 countries. We've got all of our Leadbetter Kids instructors now that are growing and building. And it'd be great to hear the experiences and the expertise from all of you as instructors. So please reach out to Gavin and I if you want to be involved and you want to present. We would love for every couple of weeks an academy or one of our instructors to be featured and present and share their knowledge back to the team. And we want to keep it lighthearted like tonight, so you can see that you're happy to ask questions, you can be involved. It should be a really safe, healthy environment where we can feel as though we're learning, we're developing every week, and you're not being preached at. It's not that you have to do this or you have to attend this. It's and if you do miss it, a lot of people have given up time in their work schedule today. A lot of people have got up early or stayed up late. We are truly global as a company and an academy network, which is fantastic, but also a challenge for Gavin and I to make the time zones work. So we will be staggering them. We are at the mercy a little bit of if we're having speakers come on board, but everything will be recorded and shared with you. And the exciting news is that we're working on a brand new platform to move the university across to, that not only houses the educational courses, but creates a real community aspect, very Facebook-esque, where we can actually have threads and streams and groups set up. Each academy can have little spaces where they can network and talk. So that's going to be launched in March. You guys will all get to preview it a little bit before that, but Gavin and I will keep you in the loop. And I think it'd be a great way for us to all, as an academy network, grow the community even bigger. Gavin, I know we've got a good speaker lineup already and a lot in the works. We've got Dr. Bob next week. He's going to be at 8 a.m. Eastern, so that might be a little bit easier for Europe and for Asia next week. The following week, Gavin, you're working on a guest speaker for a junior development session, and then the following week Paul Laurie has agreed to speak with us about his journey as a player and his journey with his coaches and his expectations and the work that
are you translating, Stuart? You're translating?
Yes. I'm bringing it from North Scottish to South Scottish and maybe into some Geordie. And then actually the week after, we've got Mark Immelman lined up. He's obviously does a lot of commentating on CBS. He's featured Dr. Bob and myself and David on the Mark podcasts before. And it's great that we can turn the tables on him and actually interview him and see what he's learned through his time. So we've got a few people that are from outside of our academy network, but a lot that are within, and then obviously a big focus on the junior development as well. So Gavin, anything to add to that? Have I missed anything?
No, there's some amazing speakers lined up, as you've mentioned, and we're just very keen to make sure this is as interactive as possible. And if you have any suggestions about topics that you'd like covered, even if you don't want to present yourselves, but clues for what interests you and how we can help you develop yourselves and your businesses, then this is what this is for, and it complements everything that we are doing through the education. And again, once the Mighty Networks platform is live and ready to go, then you'll see a whole world of new content available to you and to your students. So it's also very exciting. But thank you, David. I think that was a remarkable presentation on what you've been doing with Patrick. And you say that the changes are subtle. The changes are amazing in a short space of time. I have no idea how he even won a green jacket when he was swinging like a chopper beforehand. So, I think fair play now. He's well on the road to world #1 and the Grand Slam in 2021. Amen.
Here we go.
Perfect.
Well,
David.
Thanks, everybody. I enjoyed doing that today. I enjoy heading up the team. We've got just a great bunch of coaches on board, and I'm very proud to sort of head the team up and keep up the great work.